All right, here we go, Tony, right?
Yes.
3, 2.
Welcome to another episode of Relics Radio. This is a family-friendly show, so the entire family can join us as we talk metal detecting, relic, and treasure hunting. You can also call into the show at 270-495-0315 or join in the chat and post any comments or questions you might have. Relics Radio is available live on the Spreaker app, but it's also archived wherever you get your podcast. You're listening to Relics Radio.
Hey everyone, welcome to Relics Radio. I'm your host, DK. From Adventures in Dirt, joined tonight by my co-host, Tony, with 5280 Adventures. Do you like Halloween, Tony? Is that one of your...
Did you hear? What was that you?
No, what?
I heard.
What are you talking about?
We'll have to listen to it on the replay. There was somebody that was strange.
Hmm.
What's up, DK?
It's another Thursday night, man. I'm glad we could get together, do another Relics Radio. For those of you listening on the replay, welcome to another Relics Radio. Good to see everyone coming into the chat room, and good to see you. You know, people don't know you and I are on a camera link up, so we can see each other and chat with each other, give each other hand signals while we do this podcast.
I was totally going to come on as like Dracula.
I was too. I had a mask in the closet. I just thought this can be great, but no one on the radio would understand what we were talking
you wouldn't be able to hear me through the mask.
Someday we may do something with the videos we shoot here, but
yeah, we are.
Excellent. So what's been up, man? How's your week been?
You know what? It's nice. The weather's starting to cool off. I don't know about you up north, but man, it's been beautiful this week.
Yeah, it was like in the 80s up here, but then the night's getting down to almost freezing.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I love it. I love when the weather starts to get cooler and the leaves are starting to change and falling off the trees. Have you made it up to the mountains or anything to go looking at the aspens or?
No, last year we did. Went up and took pictures and stuff. We didn't make it this year. Yeah. The way I drive to work in this back sort of residential community, I kind of take a bunch of back roads to get to work. I just prefer it instead of the stupid freeway. Yeah. But man, it's just like tree city, and it's just every color you can think of, and they overhang the road. You know what I mean? So it's just amazing.
You know what big trees mean? Big trees mean history. They've been there a while, so.
Sure, absolutely.
I love big trees.
Me too, especially out in the middle of a big old empty field. Yeah. I'm like, ooh, look at that big old cluster of those gigantic cottonwoods out there. Those have been there for 100 years. Yeah, absolutely, there was.
Yeah. What else is new with you? Anything good?
Went to the ballet this last weekend.
Oh, yeah? Were the tights a little tight? Or
I couldn't pirouette for anything, man. Too much weight on me.
I do not.
Is that a visual?
Yeah, I got it.
No, my wife's a fan of the ballet. She used to do when she was younger and stuff, so she really likes going. She knows I don't really like going, but since I'm going to go, I always figure, I always like to see how they put it on. Like, how do they tell a story using a ballet? Like, how do they, because I like plays and stuff. Like, I like seeing the conveyance of the story, but they did Dracula. We went to see Dracula, the ballet.
Dracula, the ballet.
And I thought, oh, this is either going to be good are really not so good. And I was so impressed, man. I gotta say, I was so impressed.
Good.
They did it dark. They did it pretty dark and very theatrical, like not over the top, but like you were in it. You were like really watching, and I guess you can walk away with appreciation of how much skill it takes to do the dances and stuff, but I was looking past all that, and the sets were amazing. Like the way they conveyed a story without talking. Like that's my interest, right? I'm like, how are they going to do this without talking or speaking? How are they going to convey the Dracula story? Because we're all about, the spoken word, right? And they didn't, but they pulled it off, man. I'm telling you.
That's awesome. I'm glad you had a good time.
The last one we went to was The Wizard of Oz as a ballet. So they pulled that one off too,
I don't
man.
think I've ever been to a ballet. I've been to quite a few plays.
Yeah.
And I enjoy going to the plays as well at the theater, but I don't know about ballets.
Yeah. Bill said I got to see the fat lady sing. And the skinny dude dressed up like Dracula too. I saw him sing too. No, it was pretty good. It was a good thing. But that's about it. Other than that, we've been doing a lot of work at home. Been making some, doing some work on Amazon and stuff like that. But got some more videos out on that.
Good.
Yeah.
More than me.
You? How was you too? Your week?
Everything was good. My dad was up. Was here from Ohio last week. That's right. We had open mic night with Jeff Lubert last Thursday.
Yeah.
If you guys didn't hear that, go back and listen to the archives. That was a really good show. We talked about the seated hunts, unseated hunts, different events, metal detecting events. But
things you should know, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I was up with my dad until Sunday, and then just back to work Monday morning. I've been actually out shooting prairie dogs.
Have you?
Yeah, it's been good.
Put up your blind and just plink them through the blind, or what?
Yeah. It's been a good time. They're starting to really make their way onto the ranch property, and we really want to make sure not to. So I've been trying. Yeah. I had 3 yesterday. Only got 1 today.
But they're spreading the word, right? They're like, don't go past that fence over there. Yeah, don't go over there. Billy never came back.
Bob, he was just here a second ago.
So funny.
Yeah.
Shoot. Well, good luck. I mean, I know that's important for the ranch out there and stuff.
Is. Yeah.
Who you see in the chat? We got people joining us, tuning into our Halloween special tonight.
Yeah, we got Detecting Addicts came in. First one in there after 5280 Adventures. Detecting Addicts says, hey, all.
Yep.
And then we have Mr. Bill Hayes joining us. Bill's always in the chat every single week. Doesn't miss a week.
Bill's been cooking some food. I've been watching it on his Facebook page. My gosh. Looks great, Bill.
And we want to say hey to Mike Chamberlain. Mike Chamberlain says, hello, everyone.
Hello there, Mike. Good to see you, man. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you being here, of course. But yeah, shoot. I like seeing the weather change too. And you know what? It wasn't that Bill. It was the other Bill, Ohio Relic Hunter. He's been cooking some food, man.
Yeah.
Hey, other Bill, have you been watching his page and seen him cook all that stuff? Yeah.
Bill, this is my brother Bill and my other brother Bill.
Right. Crazy. Well, hey, let's bring our guest on tonight. We're having a Halloween special. We're going to talk about all things unexplained, maybe some interesting experiences maybe you've had out there detecting in the woods or going into these old homes. If you guys got a story for us, we're going to open the phone lines up early tonight in about another 15 minutes. Feel free to call in tonight. The number is going to be 270-495-0315. Give us about 15 minutes. We'll open those phone lines up. You'll be welcome to call. I'd love to hear your stories. Go ahead and bring on our guest, Tony.
We have a really fun guest. This will be a good time. We were chatting before we went live tonight, and I'm really excited. I think there's going to be some really good stories and a really interesting story about a place you guys might know about. But we've very, very blessed and lucky to have from YouTube and from the Great White North, not visiting, but lives up in the Great White North, Mr. Pop Can Dan.
Dan McDonald, how are you doing?
Dan, what's up?
Wow, what an intro, man. I wish my wife would do that every time I walked in the room.
Don't we all?
Excellent. I got to remember that one. Ladies and gentlemen, dogs and cats, welcome to the living room, Dan McDonald! And you come in shuffling.
Too funny.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
No, thanks, man. Greetings from the Great White North here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell people where you're at, Dan. Whereabouts in the wide world are you?
Well, Ontario, Canada. Then you have Toronto, right at the top of Lake Ontario. I'm about 45 minutes east of Toronto.
Oh.
On the shore, I could drive 3 minutes down the road. I'm going to drive right into Lake Ontario. So I'm very close to the lake.
If you're east of Toronto, you're in the lake, aren't you?
I'm very close. Yeah, for sure.
That's great.
Right on.
That's a good spot. That's a good spot.
What's weather like there these days?
It got a little cold today, but and it's definitely cold at night. Like I heard you guys say near freezing. Same thing here overnight. It's close to freezing, but this weekend coming up, it's going to be nice and mild. When I say mild, I don't know how to do the conversion. They're talking 18, 19, which I'm not sure what that would be for you guys, but it's going to be nice. It's literally, it's not even sweater weather. It's I would say long sleeve shirt weather. And the beauty of it is I have a couple of friends coming down they're close to Montreal. They're coming down for the weekend to detect as well. So it's going to be a good time.
Nice.
Yeah. And the weather's looking good. So yeah.
Well, man, I've been a fan of your YouTube channel for quite a while, Dan, watching all your videos, and you've got some great ones out there. Tony's going to be posting the link to your YouTube channel in the chat. We've got it right down below in the description of this podcast. So if you're not familiar with Pop Can Dan up there in the Great White North, go give him a look. He's got some great videos. Your most recent one's pretty cool. I like your thumbnail. It's a great preview of what they're going to see in that video. But we came on tonight to talk about all kinds of things, spooky, creepy. I heard you recently took some kind of trip.
Yeah, I did. Just to give you a quick little backstory, why I actually even do this crazy stuff. I've had experiences my entire life. Like, so I was 7 years old at my grandfather's funeral, and standing in the funeral parlor and looking at him standing at the front door when he was supposed to be in the casket. And I'm like, I don't understand this stuff. Like, it's just weird, you know? And I have these strange experiences my whole life. And that's why I've really been interested in it. And so I have some really, really good friends, Joni, Connie, and Tina. They're part of they're called the Cape Cod Paranormal Consortium. So you guys should check them out on Facebook too. They're a paranormal research group, and I'm good friends with them. And so the neat thing is they invite me to go on, like, they're based out of Massachusetts, but they invite me to go with them, and they go to the greatest places in the United States, like the best haunted places. And they invite me, and I'm like, wow, you know, people just don't get to go to these places. And I get an invite, you know, and it's like, so I try to jump at it when I can. Like in 2019, I went to the Lizzie Borden house in Fall River, Massachusetts. And, you know, without getting too much into that really messed me up. That was a rough night.
What was it again? What was it?
It was called the Lizzie Borden house.
Right.
And everybody knows the what is it, the nursery rhyme or the
Right.
Yeah, Lizzie Borden, what is it, took an axe, gave her father 40 whacks, something like that, and gave her mother 40 whacks, and I had some experiences in that house. I was like, are you kidding me? And the cool thing about the Cape Cod Paranormal Consortium group, they try to be cool about everything. Cool, calm, and collective. And they say, oh, yeah, no, that's... And then when I leave the house, they'll call me a week later and they'll go, remember when that night vision camera tore off the desk right in front of you? That wasn't cool. You know, I'm like, oh, you tell me that now. But they don't want to tell me that... They don't want to tell me that in the moment because they don't want to scare me, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of just a quick little backstory. But you're right. I was given the opportunity. They called me, and because COVID, the pandemic started 2020, spring 2020, I couldn't go anywhere. I was supposed to go to Kentucky. I literally was gonna hook up with Loy. When I went down to Kentucky, they invited me down to this the sanitarium. They were doing an overnight, investigation. And I talked to Loy. I was actually going to meet him for lunch, but the whole thing fell through because of the pandemic. But so when the borders opened up again, they called me and they said, "Listen, we're going to the Conjuring House now." The Conjuring House, for you guys, or it's called the Arnold Estate. That's the real name of it. But for you guys that don't know, the Arnold Estate is the farmhouse that inspired the movie The Conjuring. And when I say true events, I'll say inspired, based on events. I'll say that because I found out the truth was only 10% of the movie is actually accurate, believe it or not. The other 90% is all Hollywood. But the family talks about what happened in the house when they were consultants to the movie crew, like the people that are making the movie. And when they told them their experiences from the house, the people from the movie said, "Yeah, we can't do that. We know people are going to freak out. They'll walk out of the theater." So literally the real events are actually scarier than what the movie is. And that part was really, and I knew that going down there, and I was like, "Come on, man," and they warned me in advance. The Cape Cod group, they said to me, "Listen, you thought Lizzie Borden House was bad. This is much, much more intense." And like, I walked into Lizzie Borden House and I had a splitting headache after 20 minutes, and I had to walk out of there. Like it's almost like you're attacked the second you walk in. And I was like, "Oh boy, I really didn't know what I was getting into." And so I said to myself, "Okay, I'm going to make a weekend of this. I'm going to try to set up some metal detecting down there in Rhode Island. And then I would spend the night with the paranormal, with the research group." And so I started, yeah, no kidding. It was, so I started calling in advance, emailing places in advance, Google Maps. I mean, I was all over Google Maps, up and down Rhode Island, up and down everywhere. And I had found some really cool places. And the places I emailed, nobody got back to me. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So here I go. I'm going down to Rhode Island, and I'm going to do some cold knocking, which, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say, maybe Canadians and Americans are different. I don't know. And for me, it was a little intimidating. I'm going to a different country, and I'm just going to start knocking on some doors.
Right.
And
it's not that big of a deal, right, Dan? It's not that big of a deal, but it's a lot better if you have something secured and planned when you're going on a trip that long. You know what I mean? You're like, what, 8 hours away or something, and the unknown door knocking. I get it.
And I was going alone too. That's the thing. That was pretty scary. I was heading down there alone too. So, I hear all the slogans like from different states. Live free or die trying. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. I think like the slogan for Canada is like, "Hey dude, that's cool."
It's a lot different than.
Yeah, a little laid back. So okay. So I had a few places lined up, and I went down there. I went down the night before. I stayed in Massachusetts at this little bed and breakfast. Now I got up the next day, and I headed down to the area. And I was looking at Google Maps of 1730s, 1740s, 1750s houses. And I mean, what I saw I'm like, wow, I am, I'm really hoping they give me permission. And I went down and I did some knocking, and some of the places there was nobody home, but two places I knocked. And the one I wanted the most, I was literally going to say, "Listen, dude, I'll go buy you a case of beer. I'll do anything. If you could let me swing a detector," because this house was beautiful. Big stone wall surrounded it. And I'm like, and I knocked on the door, and the guy just gave me a look. And I knew it was no by the look. And, and I was lucky. He let me get out my speech. And then he said, no, get out of here. No. And he wasn't rude, but he was like, "Go, I don't need that." So I was like, okay, now I'm really messed up here because I got all day because I allotted this entire day to detect, and I had nothing. It was like I think it was like 11 in the morning. I had nothing. So I'm like, okay. So I phoned my wife and I said, hey, I'm striking out here. So she says, go shopping down in Providence. I'm like, okay, why not? So I did. I actually went down shopping in Providence, Rhode Island for a little bit, got some stuff. And then I look at the time and I'm like, I got a lot of time. So I drove back up and I remembered on the way back, I said, there was a park and it was just down the road from the Arnold Estate. And it looks like there's a football field there now and a baseball diamond, but this area is old. I mean, you talk about like the King Philip's War, the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, like the ground is just ancient. And so I came back. I said, okay, I'm gonna detect this. I got like 2 hours now before I have to be at the house. So I pull up and the park is empty. I'm like, that's cool. So I go in, I start swinging the detector around and I'm finding your standard dimes and quarters, not silver, 2012, and I'm like, okay, but hey, you know what? I've got what I need for a video anyways. I'm doing some detecting. I'm finding some stuff. It may be in an open field, but it is what it is. And so I'm detecting down. It's a really old football field. It's not nice by any means. So I'm detecting down. It's almost down the sideline. I get to the 15-yard line, and I get a signal, man. And it's like all of a sudden it's like one of those, where your headphones, it's like pow, and it's like pops your eardrums. I'm like, whoa! It's like 4 inches, and I think it was reading on my 800. I think it was like 1920, and I'm like a pinball machine, ding, 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 and clean on each end, just a tick, 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 tick. I'm like, oh boy, this is good. 4 inches. Okay, here we go. And I dig the plug and I flip it over, and there's my savior. My saving grace is sitting in that plug right at the 15-yard line. I thought I had an old copper, thin old copper. I'm like, yes. And I pick it up and I start cleaning it off, and I realize it's a dandy button. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I got a dandy button on the 15-yard line of this card. And I'm like, yes, saving grace. And then I said to myself, okay, Dan, don't get too cocky here, but maybe if you start rubbing it, you're going to see a little GW come through on the other side.
Oh,
but it wasn't, but it was wishful thinking. So that was good for me. And I was very happy with that. So before I shut down detecting, through the woods on the other side was the grave, or it's a cemetery, where if you ever seen the movie The Conjuring, they talk about Bathsheba, this witch. That's where the real Bathsheba Sherman's grave was. And I'm like, well, I got to go check that out. So I walked over.
Don't you?
Yeah. So of course I'm obviously not detecting, but I walked over to the cemetery and I was filming the grave and I was talking and everything. And I went back to just finish detecting. I went back to the park and my detector went berserk on me, and I tried a factory reset. I couldn't figure out what was going on wrong with it. And then of course people are saying, well, that's because you visited the witch's grave. She did that to your detector. And I'm like, oh, okay. So is she a fan of Garrett or Dr. Macro? I don't know. Why would she do that to my mind lab? So, but anyways, so it was cool. So I wrapped up there, and I'm me, Ken. I'm all about humor and joking, and I was saying all kinds of funny stuff. Then I realized when I got in the car, I was just telling this to Tony before the show, I had to start the drive up to the Arnold Estate, which AKA the Conjuring House, and that's when the humor went away, and I realized this is real now. and Tony he said he was on the Street View on Google Street Map, and he was looking at the front of the Conjuring House with the barn and everything. When I pulled around that corner, I said, yeah, fun time is over, all joking aside. And I could just feel this, I just got really nervous. So I pulled up, got out of the car. I was the first one there. I beat the paranormal group there. So the landowner, the owner of the house came out, and I started chatting with her, and she had said to me, she said, yeah, sorry, we couldn't allow you on, this and that. And the funny thing is she has an assistant working with her, and he comes over to me and he goes, you detect? I said, yeah. He goes, so do I. So I said, oh, nice.
You're my
said,
new best friend.
and he said, yeah. So he said to me, he said, I've detected here in the past. I said, oh, he goes with the other landowners. He goes, but I only found a couple of square nails, and I felt like saying, well, I did say, I said, oh, what are you swinging? And he said some detector. I'm like, okay, so did you start this year? Like, it was, and I didn't want to knock him by any means, but I'm like, dude, I've been doing this 28 years. I would love to get on this property. You've been doing it for 6 months, you know? Yeah. Please, if I could ever get on. So anyways, so she apologized, said, we can't do it. But she said, hey, and then the paranormal group showed up, and it was just in time. They were doing a hike down into the woods, and it's about a mile into the woods. There's a long lost cemetery down there that's overgrown, and it's like 1730s. And so we went on this hike, and I'm expecting all creepy haunted woods, and it was just, the sun's just starting to peak now, like it's just starting to go down, touch the top of the trees. And I want to say it was scary, but Ken and Tony, it was the most beautiful woods I ever seen in my life. We were walking down this path that had a rock wall down it, and you could the history was just thick in the air. Like, it was like, oh, wow, and we went through this all the way through the woods. We finally got to the cemetery, and it's overgrown. And, there was some flags there, some American flags. Some people had hiked into the woods and put down people who had fought in the Revolutionary War were there, and and it was just, yeah, I was just standing in the middle of history. It was stunning, So anyways, not to get too long. So we head back up to the house. And so the funny thing was, when I was talking to them on the way back to the house, I realized, and the owners realized, that they only opened it up in 2019, summer of 2019, to paranormal investigators. It's always been a private house. So not too many people have been in this house from outsiders. And when the pandemic hit and the borders closed, when I was talking with the owners, they said to me, they said, you know what? You came down here from Toronto? I said, yeah. They said, you are literally the first Canadian probably ever to step in this house. Okay. And I'm like, oh, how cool is that, So, yeah. Of course, I have to make a big deal of it on video, walking into the house. Right. First Canadian walking into the house. And
first foot in.
Yeah.
First Canadian.
And I'm walking up. I'm walking up when the video comes out. You'll see, and I got the Canadian national anthem playing in the background. And look at me, all majestic. Like I've just nice. Discovered America. And so we walk in the house, and I'll tell you, I walked in there, and it's walking into 300-year-old house. Like, it's just, you're walking back in time. It's stunning. A lot of the furniture, just the woodwork on the ceiling, and I was like, oh my gosh. How can I be scared in this place? It's so beautiful. And then stuff started very quickly. Like, the sun wasn't even down. And
wait, hold on.
I went outside.
Hold on to your experiences. Hey, if you're just joining us, we're talking with Dan McDonnell. He's Pop Can Dan on YouTube. You can go check out his YouTube channel. The link's right down below in the description. We're talking about his trip to Rhode Island, his experience at the Conjuring House, the Arnold Estate. So he's getting ready to talk a little bit about some of the experiences he had there. Didn't get a chance to detect it, but I'll tell you what, it sounds like he had a good time. I was looking at some pictures, kind of a aerial shot of the little glade behind the house, and so many trees, just absolutely crazy. But I'll tell you what, we're going to open the phone lines. So if you're listening in and you'd like to call in, would love to hear your stories of unexplained things happening while you're out detecting. I've had a couple of just slight experiences. Tony, I don't think you and I have ever talked about it. But phone lines are open, 270-495-0315. One more time, 270-495-0315. Feel free to call in. Join the show. Ask questions for Dan, Tony, or myself. We'd love to talk to you. Go ahead, Dan. Sorry to interrupt you.
No worries. So
she didn't give you permission to detect, right? Because she was kind of, I think you were telling me before the show, because she was a little worried about not really knowing which way to go with that, right?
Yeah, Heritage Act. She didn't want to, because the house is so old. It's one of the oldest houses in Rhode Island, and she didn't want to cause any ripples or any waves if that ever got out. So she said, I can't do it now. Maybe if you come back. And So I'm going to hold her to that, by the way. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted to catch the last little bit of daylight. So I went back outside the house. I'm walking around, filming, talking, doing all my silly stuff. And I go back in the house, and the paranormal team is in there. They're setting up. They have we'll call it a nerve center, where the room that the door is where you walk in. They have the big monitor set up with all the small monitors, or like the cameras you can see. They're putting throughout the house, and they're all kind of. They look a little flustered when I come in. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Literally, when I walked outside, the door to the basement started to move to open. And the latch, and I'm talking, it's an old gate latch. It's not a doorknob, because these houses are so old. There were like gate latches on the doors. The latch started like rattling up and down, and then a shadow figure emerged from around the door and just shot right across the room into like almost right through the wall. And I missed it. I totally missed it. And I walked back in the paranormal group. They're all like, they're looking around. They're all like, I go, what happened? What did they just miss? And one of them, Tina, she's like a medium. She's very gifted with mediumship and stuff like that, and clairvoyancy, all things like that. And she was the one that actually saw the shadow figure come around the corner and take off. And there's a thing called a REM pod device. It kind of picks up static energy, and it's a device. You turn it on and you leave it somewhere. And if anything goes near it, any static energy, it goes off. And when this thing went through the wall, there was a REM pod in the other room. The REM pod went off in the other room. And it was like, it kind of validates what she had saw. And I totally missed it. And I was like, no, and you could tell they were a little flustered by, like, they're like, yeah, we're still setting up. And this happened right in front of us. And I'm like, I'm in for a long night, man, And, so, of course, typical PopCan humor, I said to Joni, one of the investigators, I said, Joni, what's even scarier than the Conjuring House, right? And she looks at me and she goes, what? Like, it's all tense. And I said, you never tried my wife's cooking. And she's like, are you kidding me? And you know what? This is all on video, man. It's going to come out like in the video. So, there were things like, let me see, what do I got here? So, okay. And the sun wasn't even down yet. And, they put up a REM pod in the kitchen, and the girl, Tina, the investigator, was in the kitchen, and she looks up at the ceiling, and there's all kinds of, in really old houses, they hang like herbs and stuff, and, like different, sage hanging from the, So there's a whole line of them lined up on the ceiling hanging, but one of them is spinning frantically for no reason whatsoever. There's no breeze in there. There's no fan. But one of them is just spinning, and the REM pod is going off. And so she starts talking to this, and she had warned me in advance. She said, this is a really nasty spirit that she said, which she believes is demonic. And, so she said, do you, is this you, blah, blah, blah. I can't remember the person's name she uses. And she said, are you happy that we're here? And the REM pod's beeping going. And then she said, do you want us to leave the kitchen? And the REM pod just went beep, like really loud. I guess that's the way of communication. And I'm standing there, and I'm like, the sun's not even gone down yet, man. And this is like crazy stuff, So the cool thing was I recorded all of this stuff. It was really cool. And so I did a quick spin of the house just before it got dark. I wanted to do a tour of the house with myself with the camera walking through. And as I started to walk away, the paranormal team said to me, hey, listen, don't separate yourself from the group, and not in this house. And I'm like, oh, that's really reassuring to me,
Yeah, right. Thanks.
And they said,
warning.
yeah, they said there's strength in numbers in this house, and that's what we have to stick with. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. But then Joni says to me, she goes, but if you want to go upstairs and lie in the bedroom on the bed, we'll put a camera on you. We'll see what happens. And I'm like,
we'll just see what happens.
No way. Yeah, no way, man. No way, shape, or form.
If you want to hold this bucket of chum, we throw you in the ocean.
Yeah.
We just want to see what happens. We got cameras on you.
Yeah. You know, and me being a Canadian, I almost went for it too. I'm like, hey, I'm up for anything, man. Let's do it. But no, I was getting a little freaked out by, you know, like I said, it wasn't even dark yet, you know. So I did a quick tour of the house, and I was really nervous doing it, but I got through it and I got back, and so we said, okay, we're going to go upstairs and we're going to start doing EVP sessions. Now these are electronic voice phenomena. You do them with recorders, and you catch these disembodied voices if you can. So we went upstairs and we were sitting in the room, and the owner of the house is gone. Now it's just the four of us alone in this house. You know, probably the most haunted house in America. And yeah, we're sitting up there and we're just quiet and we're asking questions. And then all of a sudden I hear, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And I hear again, and I'm like, and I look at Tina, and Tina looks at me, and I said, Tina, is that the door latch to the basement door? And she said, yes, it is. It's going again. I'm like, are you kidding me? You know, like it wasn't scary, but it was like, wow, like this is real, you know? This is actually.
Stay out of the basement.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you about the basement. Listen, man, I'll tell you about the basement after. And it's so I was like, oh, this is actually real, you know? And so that was really neat. But the worst part came next. And you know, if we went back to the kitchen, and she had said to me last time they were there, they were sitting at the table in the kitchen. And because Tina is a medium, her whole life she can see things. You know, she hears voices, she sees things. She said she was sitting there and her across the table from her, and Joni was to her left. And over her sister's shoulder was this old, decrepit man, an evil-looking man leaning over, looking at them. But once again, you can't say, "Oh my gosh!" Like you can't, because it throws everything off, the whole equilibrium for the night. So they tell you about it later. And so she told us in advance. She said, yeah, there's something very dark in this kitchen. So we went in to do this. It's called a pendulum session, where she holds a pendulum and it actually hangs down. And she holds her elbows on the table and it hangs down. And she asks questions. They're yes, no questions. And the pendulum actually will start to swing forward for yes or side to side for no. And so I was sitting right beside her filming this. I didn't stop my camera once, and I filmed the entire thing. So she starts asking questions. It's really dark, but there's just enough light that you can see us. And she's asking questions. Is there anybody here with us? And it's going, yes, you know, and she says, you know, is there, who's here? You know, and like, can you know, are you a child? And it's going, yes. And she said, is there anybody here with you? And it's going, yes. So she says, you know, is the old man here? Oh, no, sorry. She asked something else. And then she said, is the old man here with us or something like that? And it went, yes. And then she says, does the old man hurt people? And it swung back and forth. In other words, yes. And when she asked that, does the old man want to hurt some people? And it swung back and forth and said yes. All of a sudden behind her, I heard it was almost like somebody just went like just made a bat, as if somebody just put a fist down on a table, like boom. It was just like that. It was a subtle boom. And her head goes up. Joni across the table from me, she looks behind Tina, and I look behind Tina because the sound came from behind there. And Tina, and then this smile comes across Tina's face, and Tina says, is the old man behind me right now? Because we all knew something is behind her. We heard it. And about 5 seconds later, all of a sudden you see her just drop the pendulum, and she looks like she's writhing in pain. And we all jump up like, what happened? And the flashlights come on, and she lifts up her shirt, and she had literally been scratched right down her back.
What?
And what? Yeah. So I'm like, So she lifts up the shirt, and it's like if you were to scratch yourself really hard, it doesn't appear right away. And then all of a sudden, after a little, a few seconds, this red mark starts to show up on you. And that's kind of, like when you get a road rash or something, it doesn't show up until a few seconds later. And so they lifted up the back of her shirt, and they're flashing the flashlights on it. And I'm looking, and I'm still videotaping. I'm like, I don't see anything. And then all of a sudden, you see 3 distinct scratch marks down her back appear on her back. And I'm like, okay, that's not even funny. Like, that is, she had said that it's demonic, especially when the scratches come in 3s and stuff. So we had to stop what we were doing immediately and leave the room, because she said, if we continue, she said, things are going to get really bad in here. So I'm like, yeah, good enough for me. I'll see you later. I was the first one out of the room. I'm like, I can't believe I actually witnessed this. You hear about it on TV shows, you see something maybe on YouTube, but in person videotaping this when it happened, I was in shock. So, yeah, I don't know if you wanted to cut in. I got a few more experiences from the house, but.
So sorry, my dog is totally freaked out by this show tonight. Yeah, I think that was my dog. Wait, I don't have a dog. Dun, 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 dun. No. So how many of these haunted houses type places have you gone to over since you've obviously have an interest in this. You've had an interest for a while since you've had experiences when
I have.
But have you gone with other investigators before?
No. Okay, let me put it this way. Probably about 17 years ago on my old job, there were a couple of us that showed an interest, and but we knew nothing about it, And so when we worked the afternoon shift, the 3 of us afterwards, we would go pick a place and we would go there. And so we've gone to a few places, and we went up to this one place called Ghost Road, and then it's one of those, I think there's more drinking going on there than the ghost hunting. But there was, and I remember because I went up there with them, and there was a paranormal research team up there. And so this guy says to me, he goes, hey, I said, are you guys paranormal researchers? He said, yeah. I said, what do you got, And he says, come over here. So I go over, and he says, stand right here and start looking into the woods. He goes, I guarantee something's going to happen, but you got to give it time. And I'm like, oh, whatever, And I was a believer, but I was still a little, I wasn't really one of these people that actually did investigation. So I stood there. I said, okay. And I was looking in the woods, and your eyes start playing tricks on you. Oh, did I see something there? What's that? Something behind a tree? No. Right. I was literally probably about 15 minutes. I was standing there. I was just about to turn to the guy, turn to walk away and say to the guy, I think you're full of, malarkey. And just as I was about to turn, I felt a tug on my hoodie on the sleeve, like somebody grabbed it and just tugged down really hard, and enough that it kind of, I felt it like on my shoulder. So I turned because I thought it was my buddy that I went there with, but there was nobody there. And I turned, I did a 360, and there was nobody near me. Like, the next closest person was probably 200 feet away. And I was like, and the guy looks at me, and he comes running back, and he goes, did you just get your shirt tugged? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, see, I told you. And it was like right then, I'm like, oh my gosh, this stuff is really interesting, So yeah, I've done a few different things like that, but like I said, the real heavy duty was when I was invited by the paranormal group to go to the Lizzie Borden house in Massachusetts, and then of course to go to the Conjuring house. And I mean, these are heavy hitters, This is not. It's not like Casper the Ghost, or a haunted maze or something at Halloween. This is the real deal. And I was like, she said to me, it's not, and they said, it's not for the faint of heart by any means, Yeah. So, and the funny thing was the Conjuring house, you had to sign a waiver going in there, Ken, that literally stated, I have the waiver here somewhere. My daughter has it downstairs. What? Yeah. And it says, if you have a heart attack, if you die in the house, if you get electrocuted, and it's got a whole list of things, they are not held liable. What? And it says if you're injured by a spirit, we're not held liable. And I'm like, I'm reading this stuff. I'm like, come on, man, it's all for show. But no, one of the investigators literally got scratched. You know, it's crazy. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at the website right now, and it says, caution, enter at your own risk. The Conjuring House may be considered too intense for some guests. Please take this into consideration if you experience any of the following: respiratory issues, heart conditions, are prone to seizures, fainting, or sensitivities. Not intended for young children or faint of heart. The recommended age 13 or older.
My goodness. If you're allergic to bite marks, don't enter through the floor threshold. Shoot, man. How about you, Tony? Have you ever had any experience?
I can't.
Over the years?
I can't say that I have.
Yeah, I haven't had any direct thing like he said those investigators experience, but I've had twice in my life. One time I got a UFO story, but twice in my life, twice in my life I've entered a place, one known to be haunted, the other one not so much, and it's a place that you and I have been to actually. The place I went to that's known to be haunted is called the Winchester Mystery House, and it's in San Jose, California. And I went there.
Oh yeah, the family that makes the bullets, right?
Right, they made the rifles.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be haunted by all the people ever killed by a Winchester repeater rifle and all that stuff. The old lady Winchester, she just kept adding on to her home. She was tormented by ghosts and tormented by the memory of her husband, and she just felt like she had to keep building because she would do an addition and then she'd stop, and whenever she would stop, it would just go crazy. And so she just kept adding on. So like doorways into nowhere, just things that are just unexplained and stuff. And when I was in that house, and maybe my mind was led a bit because of where I was at, but I felt cold, different sensations of air movement, of different things. And, I definitely got a sense of like, this is probably not too right in here. It's not just right. And the other place, Tony, you remember that abandoned house site you and I went to, where you found that, I found the Colorado tax token. Remember, we got permission to go on that home, and it was out there behind that construction development. Old mill site. It's an old mill site.
Yep.
And we ended up going down in the basement and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I was getting so creeped out there. I went out there by myself one time and went back down in the basement, and I was trying to find, hidden, it was all, old brick and wood. And I was trying to find old niches that maybe somebody could have tucked something into, or just see what was left behind. Remember, were you with me when we found the old wallpaper?
Yeah, the wallpaper
that was newspapers.
It lined the staircase going down to the basement.
Yeah, and it was 1906 newspaper or something like that. Yeah. Well, that place, man. When I got down there, I went back there on my own one time and was in that basement, and it was absolutely just creepy. You know what I mean? Creepy.
Yeah.
And I just get the feeling like I'm like, it's the quietness, it's the slight noises, it's
in the floorboard or something. You're like, is someone walking?
So those are only 2 times I've ever really been creeped out. I've been in the woods a few times where things got a little hairy, but no experiences like that, man. No overt experiences like that.
Yeah. Let me know. I got a probably my last good story from the house. It's about a 5 minutes. So whenever you want me to shoot.
Hey,
okay,
you guys out there listening, and listen to everyone listening in. We're joined tonight by Pop Can Dan. McDonnell is talking about his trip to the Conjuring House. If you're not familiar with the Conjuring, it's a movie that came out like in 2013, something like that. 14, and it sparked an entire series of different movies about the Conjuring House, about the activities that went on there with the Perron family and. In the 70s, I think it was. And then there was even offshoots of that, like about the Annabelle doll and all kinds of stuff that has to do with that.
I pulled up the films that are all related here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 films about this kind of series that's been going on since 2013.
And I have never seen one of them.
I have.
Dan, you said they're some of the scariest movies you've seen.
Definitely the Conjuring one for me is one of the scariest I've ever seen. Yeah. And I remember watching. I went to the theater to watch it in 2013, and I'm like, you know, and I'm saying, I guess I didn't say to myself, yeah, I'm going to wind up in this house. But I probably back then in the theater, I would have said, yeah, no chance ever I would go in that house, you know. And no, here I am, you know. So,
Wow.
but yeah, but you know, the like you just I heard you say earlier, don't go in the basement, you know. That was where we went next, and
shut up.
yeah, and
Really?
the basement, you know, like it's got the classic stairs when you go down there. It's got the big string you pull and the light goes click, you know, and it you know, it kind of waves back and forth, and then like and you go down the stairs. It's got your classic foot grabbing from under the stairs type stairs, where you go down and you're like, okay, someone's gonna grab me from under the stairs. It's just like your mind goes wild, you know. So we went down there, and two of the investigators did not want to go in the basement. And these are the investigators. These are professionals. And they said, we're not comfortable down there. But like I said, strength in numbers, two of us wanted to go. So, you know, because I was the guest, they said, okay, we'll go down there. But they really didn't want to. So we went down, and there's a table down there. It's called the well room. And there's an actual well in the corner. So we sit down and we start once again. Oh yeah, let me tell you one quick thing. So I forgot. Let me rewind back. Before I went to the house, I needed something to eat. I was dying. The only place I could find in Rhode Island to eat there was a Taco Bell. So I'm like, okay, it's gonna be a long night. I gotta hit Taco Bell hard. And I mean, I must have spent in American money probably about $16 at Taco Bell, which nobody should ever do. And so when I got back to the house, when we started doing all these EVP sessions with the recorders, these are high-tech recorders, and they pick up the slightest little sounds. Well, wasn't my stomach starting to gargle? And it's going, and literally at one point, we're sitting in this room, and all of a sudden you hear, and they all look at each other like, is that like a satanic noise? Like, I said, no, sorry, that's Taco Bell, you know? And they're like, what? Yeah. And this went on all night, and God bless them for being so patient with me. And I said, you know, when you guys go back and review all this footage, you're going to have to debunk so much stuff. And I apologize. And it's my stomach was 90% of the noises, and, you know, so, so anyways, we go down to the basement. Yeah. We go to the basement, we sit down, and we start asking questions again. And so we got about 5 minutes down there in the dark, and all of a sudden I'm sitting there and I have shorts on. I feel something touch my leg, and it's like, it feels like a hand, and it rubs up the side of my leg, but only enough that I could feel it on the hairs of my leg. And it went right up my leg, nice and slow, right up to the knee. And I literally, I stood up, and I'm like, I didn't want to freak anybody out. And I kind of stood up and I said, okay, you know, and they're like, what? And I said, something just stroked my leg under the table, you know? And they're like, really? I'm like, I'm not messing around. Like, and I wasn't scared.
Korean immigrant.
I didn't feel like it was threatening, but it was like, okay, so let's sit back down and continue. And we started again, and I felt it again. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be the diva here. I'm not going to stand up and make a big announcement. So I'm not saying nothing. And then one of the girls across from me, she goes, okay, I just got it too. and then the other one sitting beside me goes, yeah, and I just got it, but I didn't want to say anything. So 3 of the 4 of us got our legs like stroked by something on some, yeah. And I'm like, and the only person that didn't get it was poor Tina sitting at the end of the table. She was the one that got scratched upstairs. She's already got a bye. She's good. You know what I mean? So,
did she sign the waiver?
Yeah, we all had to sign the waiver. So it was like, and I remember Roger Perrin, that owner from the father, and he had, in an interview, he had once said, down in the basement there was an unseen whatever a force or a spirit, whatever, that would always stroke the back of his neck or stroke the hand down his back while he was trying to repair some small engines. And I'm like, that is exactly what just happened to me, but it was on my leg. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't know. It was just, I couldn't believe that actually happened to me, but it was cool. I didn't feel scared about it. So we're all like, okay, maybe it's time we'll leave the basement, let's get out of here. So we all, we all make our way up out of the basement. And this was the coolest part of the night for me. We come out of the basement and I'm the first one up the stairs. And of course, Joni, one of the investigators, let me go up the stairs first so she could grab my ankle from under the stairs and hear me scream like a banshee. I went, like I screamed so loud. They were laughing. They thought it was the funniest thing. And I get upstairs and I'm like, that's so not cool, man. Now, like I was like, how dare you? I'm the one that's got to do that stuff, And so they all came upstairs and I was standing in the room. And they all came up from the basement where the same door that shadow figure popped out of. And they all come out and they walk around me and they go over towards where the big monitor is to look at all the cameras. And then I think it was Connie turned around and she looked at me and she goes, Dan, she goes, look above you right now. And I'm like, I don't want to, And I look up and there's a chandelier right above me. And it's high. It's probably about 6 inches taller than I am. And this thing is actually swinging. And I'm like, what is going on here? We were all downstairs. There was nobody anywhere in the house.
Right.
And we come up and this chandelier is actually swinging. And I'm like, and it's coming, like it's right underneath me. It's right above me and it's swinging. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I pull out the camera right away and I start filming, And I got the tail end of it as it was moving. And I said to them, this is crazy. I said, we have to debunk this. And they said, well, there's nothing really to debunk. That thing is moving on its own. There's nobody else in the house. So I said, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take one for the team here. I'm going to go upstairs alone. I'm going to stand over top of where the chandelier.
Hey, Dan, I forgot to tell you if we hang up on you, that we'll call you back. But are you there?
Yeah, hey, it's Dan. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
What?
Perfect. So, okay. Now,
finally.
Yeah. So we're doing
you guys probably had enough of me.
We're doing a show about weird, strange happenings.
What the?
And then that happened just now. That happened.
There you go.
So thanks for bringing
the
juju over to the podcast.
I don't know if Dan may not even heard what happened. Did you hear?
No, I was in the middle.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of blabbing on. I was in the middle of blabbing on my story, and my wife comes in and she's signaling to me because she's listening in the other room, and she's signaling to me. She goes, "You're not even on the air anymore."
That's so funny.
No, all of a sudden it clicked over to some voicemail. It said it spouted off some number. It said not available, and then went to voicemail, without missing a beat.
Gosh.
Crazy, yeah.
Very
so on the replay of this, I'll go in there and mute that out. I can go ahead and mute that number out because I think it said the number. I don't know if that was your number or not, Dan. To be honest with you,
I have no idea what that was.
I was struggling trying to get us all back on the line, but gosh, of course.
Yeah, sorry about that. I saw something.
My gosh.
I said, I think somebody's trying to call me, and here I didn't want to take it because obviously I'm talking to you guys, but it was you guys.
Yeah. Dan, what's your wife's first name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer, well, thank you very much, Jennifer, for going in the room and telling him he's off the air. That's great. I appreciate that. We were able to get you right back on. No, actually, what happened is we had a caller call in, and I have 2 buttons I can press when I add a caller to the line. And, of course, I clicked the wrong button, which hung up on you guys and answered his call. So,
okay.
Oh, man.
Well, I think in the story you were talking about the chandelier that was moving. That's about where it clicked off.
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, this chandelier that I was standing right under was actually swinging, and I caught it on camera as well. It's all, like I said, part of the videos. But I told them, I said, what is that about? And they said, that is, you can't explain that. So I said, well, here, let's try to debunk it. So I went upstairs right above where the chandelier is, and I was actually stomping on the floor as hard as I could, and it was barely moving. But when we came up, it was swinging, and I'm like, yeah, it was just stuff you cannot explain, man.
Mm.
So
when things start moving and you start hearing things, I tell you what, that gets pretty creepy, because it's hard to explain that. You can't explain that away, you know? Like air movement, air current. Now, are you a skeptical guy? Like, do you try to disprove stuff or look for, logical conclusions, logical things? Or are you just in it to win it, where you're like, yeah, okay. You know what I mean? Because you're like, okay,
no.
Yeah, something's biting my ankle.
I'm almost like I'm one of those people. If I'm sitting downstairs alone in my house and all of a sudden a door slams, I'm like, whatever. I'm kind of like one of those people. I'm like, whatever. But there's sometimes, like you said, Ken. Other times you're not even thinking about something, and you go somewhere, and all of a sudden your spidey senses, the hairs on your neck are standing up, and you have to pay attention to that stuff because it's doing that for a reason. I'm like, oh, this is a little odd here. There's something going on, And it's just the spidey senses you feel. I don't go looking for stuff like that unless, of course, I get invited to a place like that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell you what, crazy. I mean, this. I think that. Well, I don't know. Lizzie Borden House would be pretty darn creepy too, man. I've always wanted to go there just to visit that because, I'm into a little bit of the morbidity, the darker things. I think I was telling the story before the show about my trip to the Dracula ballet, and they did it dark, and I kind of appreciated that because it's kind of a dark story. So for them to not frill it up and make it into like a Broadway play, or a Broadway musical, I thought was pretty good. But
so I got a question about Dracula ballet. Did he like prance in and then bite somebody? I mean, it seems kind of counterintuitive here.
It does. No, how he played it was when he came on screen. And Denny, I see you on there. Just hold on a second, buddy. When he entered the whole thing, he was way up on this staircase, and it became this real tense moment. And all of a sudden, he appeared, and he was a super tall person, anyways. Okay. And he arched his shoulders back, and he stuck out his chest, and he kind of struck this posture and he had his hands folded in front, and he just walked about as slow as you can walk down the stairs, just like confident, nothing's affecting him, just about as pliant as could be. And he played it perfect. And matter of fact, at the end of the show, when all the actors come on, or all the ballet performers come on, and they take their bow, of course he's the last one because he's the star of the show, right? And all the other ones kind of come up and do their bow and come back and wave at the audience and everything, and they're clapping for each other, and they're doing all their forward and back, and all of a sudden then it becomes quiet, and then you see all this fog come on stage, and then here he comes, just one step, like slower than a wedding march, you know what I mean? Like just coming on all confident and very, obtuse, I guess you would say. Is that the right word? But he did it great.
Interesting.
Hey, Denny, you're on the phone. Yeah, Denny, you're on the air with Tony, myself, and Pop Can Dan from Canada. How you doing, Denny?
Boo.
What's up, Denny?
Boo! Oh my God, stop that, dude. I knew Denny would scare me somehow, man. Come on, Denny.
I just soiled my Speedo.
How many times have you been metal detecting and the hair stood up on the back of your neck because somebody was coming up behind you? I was in Sarasota, Florida, and I very seldom hunt in town, in parks. And one day I stopped by here and I went, oh, there's nobody around. Well, there was. There was a bunch of hoodlums or whatever they call them. I can't tell you what I call them.
Right.
But anyway, I was there, and all I had with me was my big old knife that I dig with. Yeah. And I kept it right out where they could see it real well. And I backed up towards my truck and got the heck out of there.
I bet.
And I'm not lying to you, the hair stood on the back of my neck, and that's the last time I did that trick. Unless I got somebody with me.
Yeah. It can get hairy.
I bet everybody in here has had that experience. And
Dan, you or Tony? You or Tony have that? I know I have for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I had an experience. Maybe we can talk about it another time. But I mean, some of you guys know I was a police officer for 11 years, and I've had many experiences that the hair stood up on the back of mine. I can think of one very specific one. Maybe we'll tell a story later on about it. But yeah, it happens.
Yeah. How about you, Dan? While detecting any creepy?
Yeah. I think I told you. What was the last time I was on? It was something happened to me many years ago. I was detecting in this place where this guy, I think he died in 1821, buried his kettle of gold and like on the gold bullion on the side of the creek, and I've been looking for it for years, and I always feel I'm getting close to it, and this is really just creepy, man, this place, and it's in the woods, and I was detecting. And I was swinging my detector, and I remember I got a beep. It was a perfect beep, like it was like, beep, beep. I think it was, what was I using, a Fisher 1236, some old detector. And all of a sudden I got a perfect beep. And the second I got a beep, and I didn't have headphones for this. And the second I got the beep, I could almost feel the breath in my ear, and it was like somebody whispered. It was like somebody whispered, and it said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I'll never forget. What are you doing? And it was like, "What are you doing?" And I literally, I swear, I soiled my Speedo. I jumped, man. Like there was, and it took me 10 minutes to recover because I thought if it was a homeless guy that was crept up on me, I don't know. And I was so freaked out, I could not continue detecting there. I actually left, and I'll never forget it. Like it was like you could feel the breath in your ear as they said it. You know, what are you doing? And I was okay. I'm not here. Gone.
Hey,
yeah.
Denny, let me ask you about this. You've done an awful lot of DIVs, and you ever get any feelings? I mean, I know we're always like the DIV I went to. You definitely have an appreciation of those guys that were out there spending their time there and what they were facing at the time, and you think a lot about that. And when I was on Coles Hill, I think I walked back there almost by the latrine and stuff. And it was just this big thicket of trees back there. And you just got a sense like, man, can you imagine if you were here and it was middle of winter and, couldn't go anywhere?
You probably out of your hut to go pee.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Shoot. But do you ever get any weird, strange feelings, any kind of sensations?
I always take a picture. I've taken many pictures of Jeff Lubert in Virginia, and he'll stand way up on the top of the hill. And usually I'll take a picture of him standing up there looking out over, thinking, here's a soldier looking out over all of us, wondering, what the heck are we doing?
Wow.
But it is cool. I always pick out somebody standing on the top of the hill because I think that's a soldier up there looking down over us.
Yeah, that's cool.
Good visual. Very cool.
Yeah.
First time I went to Gettysburg, you just can't explain it, man. You just can't explain it. But you can almost see these young boys coming out of these thickets of woods. Like I saw this open field with a wood line behind it, and the guy I was with was like, "Yeah, me and my father used to hunt those woods all the time," and I didn't care about that. I was just seeing soldiers like starting to advance out of those trees, and it's just you get this feeling. It's hard to explain, but man. That's an amazing place.
Have you ever had a bullet go by your ear?
Yeah, above my head. Not by my ear, but above my head.
Actually, I was in Vietnam, but it didn't happen in Vietnam. It happened at home here on a Sunday, and it was deer hunting season for teenagers, for the kids. And I was out arrowhead hunting, not knowing it was deer season. I had one Sunday during deer season for the kids to go out with Dad to show them how to hunt. And I'm out there walking this field, and I hear this bullet go by my ear, and went, "Oh my God, that was a bullet!"
Yeah.
Wow.
And I got out of that field, and then I found out that was hunting season for the one day for a kid to go out with his dad, and his dad apparently wasn't watching where he was shooting.
Right.
And it scared. It really did scare me.
I bet.
Close calls in Vietnam, but that was real close to my ear. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, I bet. Jeez.
It's almost like when I was in Vietnam during Tet and mortars were coming in, and I yelled out, mortar attack. I had never heard of a mortar attack in my life, but I remembered them from basic training. But I yelled out, mortar attack, and sure enough, we came out, and they were landing all around us with the Big Red 1 First Infantry Division. So it's kind of scary. Yeah. Ohio Relic Hunter said, Denny, did it make a zing sound? It sure did.
It sure did. Yeah. We have a place here in Colorado where you can go shooting in the public, or you used to. I think they frown on it now. It's called the Pawnee Grasslands. It's a big, open, natural area, and you can go out there shooting and stuff. And they have all these gullies and stuff, and you get down in the gullies, and people have been shooting out there for years. And we heard somebody shooting, and we started hurting these bullets zip over our head, over the top, because we were down in the gully, and it was just like we started yelling, like, "Hey, asshole!" You would call them every name of the book, try to, and it just, people get out there and drink and get careless. So, great call, Danny. We appreciate you calling in. Yeah.
Yep. Good show. I like your name, Beer Can.
Pop Can Dan. Pop Can Dan.
Beer Can.
How many beer cans you found in your life? We should have a story on that.
Right.
Denny, I think I might just change my name now because of that. I love it.
Yeah. Beer Can.
Beer Can Dan. That's funny. He's got one of the greatest intros in his videos. If you ever watch his videos, and we got a link down below, he's got one of the greatest intros, man, where he's just like being all this superstar and stuff, and then right at the end, this can comes in and hits him right in the head. Right in the head, comes off camera, hits him right in the head, and he looks all dejected. It's pretty funny. That's a great one.
I'll probably go out tomorrow, and the first thing I'll find is a beer can along the road.
Yep.
You'll think of Dan. You'll think of Dan. All right, Danny. Thanks.
All right. Good night, you guys.
Good night, Denny.
Hey, be like Denny. Go ahead and give us a call. Phone lines are open, 270-495-0315. Go ahead, Tony.
I got a really scary story, actually. It just kind of came to me. We just had a caller who did not mention the D word. I mean, talk about how
so scary.
That is.
Was that really Denny?
I don't think it was. It couldn't have been.
I don't think it was.
I mean, Denny has never done that.
Denny.
So Dan, Denny is a firm believer in the dais, and everything revolves around the dais, and that entire story, the entire call, didn't have the D word.
Not once. He had opportunities.
Gosh.
Well, when I'm out digging in Virginia with my dais, he runs a GPX out there. Yeah,
freaky.
It's funny. What are you swinging these days, Dan? Besides a crucifix.
Yeah, no kidding. My detector of choice is a Equinox 800. Yeah, definitely the Equinox 800. I have my backup is Garrett AT Pro. I'm all over the board, and then my backup. I have a Nocta Macro Simplex. So I'm not biased towards anybody. I love everybody.
Yep. Hey, welcome back. Ghost of Denny Morrison's on the phone.
Dance.
Darn it. You owe us $5.
Drop that call.
Caught up, Tony.
Drop that call.
Hold on. Yep. How do I hang up on him?
Now, that was the real Denny. I don't know who called earlier.
Funny.
Thanks, Denny. Appreciate that.
Good night, you guys.
Good night. So funny.
Yeah.
You can mention any detector you want. You call in here, no problem at all. Oh my gosh, great stories, Dan. Like it's, man, I don't know what I would. It would shake me to the core. I think if all these people around me started having these experiences and knowing where we were at, and what are some of your places you would like to go that you haven't had a chance to go that are along the haunted haunted realm?
Ken, you just had mentioned it because the Cape Cod Paranormal Consortium, the research team, they have invited me to go next time they're going. And unfortunately, it won't be this year, but there's a good chance it might be next. To Gettysburg. They do a lot of investigations at Gettysburg, and they said you get the best, pardon the pun, bang for your buck at Gettysburg. Mm-hmm. They said the air is so thick with the history and like it's just a static how thick the air, and they said it's mind-boggling. And they said they get their best results at Gettysburg all the time.
I agree. I've never been overtaken by a feeling like that ever in my entire life than when I went into, and I didn't even know where I was going. So it's not like I prepared for it and I was going. I was heading to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I was picked up in Maryland and at the Baltimore airport. And this guy that picked me up, he was one of the field crew there from the local company there in Lancaster. And I guess he lived in Gettysburg. And he goes, "Hey, man, I'm supposed to be taking you to the office. I know, but would you mind if we swing by my house real quick? I got to pick some stuff up because after I drop you off, I'm going on to this other site, blah, blah, blah." I go, "Yeah, sure, no problem. Where do you live?" He goes, "I live in Gettysburg." And I go, "Oh, the Gettysburg?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I go, "Cool." I said, "How far is it?" He goes, "Oh, it's right on the way from the airport to Lancaster." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. I've never been to Gettysburg." So that psyched me up for it just because of the history. But I had no idea that when we got to his house, and he lived out in like this double wide trailer out in the middle of this big plot of land, that when I stepped out of the car, I would just feel, and he left me alone right away because he went into the house. You know what I mean? And I just was like, I have got to come back here when I can spend more time. Because it is thick. That's a perfect description, Dan. It's thick. Yeah. It's thick with feeling and emotion, and it just like squeezes your skin, almost like you got somebody kind of touching your skin at all time. You just got that connection, and it's just the air. It's so weird. Your mind just can make you go there for sure.
That actually got me thinking.
Yeah, for sure.
I know, Ken, you've watched the Detectorist series, all 3 seasons.
Right.
There was, Dan, have you watched that? It's actually from UK, from BBC.
Absolutely, I can recite every episode if you'd like.
Good. then you're gonna know where I'm going with this one. There is one episode where Lance digs the orb or whatever that thing is called, but as he kneels down, or he hears the signal on the target, then he hears the horses trotting behind him. Yeah. And he says, "Did you hear that?" "No, we didn't hear anything." And he ends up going back and digging it, and that's when he finds that. And I, when you're talking about Gettysburg, that's the kind of feeling that I feel like I would see or feel or hear when I'm standing there at Gettysburg, completely dead silent, and you'll be able to hear some cannons or some people yelling as they're charging or something like that at that type of site. That's just what I think of.
Yeah. I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
All I did was think I was just thinking like, man, if I was a young soldier, like scared to death and running across this field trying to make it to the tree line, and they had beat me there and they were firing out of the tree line, because 5 feet into the trees, you can't see anything. It's so thick and it's so dense, and just huge, tall thicket of trees, like, 30, 40 feet tall. And it would just be like you would just get mowed down, and it would just be crazy. Or if you were in the tree line looking out, it would be just like picking fish in a barrel, like crazy. But
you can't reload fast enough.
Yeah. Bill Hayes says, "Try walking around Pickett's Charge in the dark, ghost hunting." Oh, Bill, you should call in and tell us that story. Oh my gosh. I bet that's the same exact way. Crazy. So you're talking, have you ever been, now is there an actual Amityville house?
Yeah, there is. And I think it's in Connecticut. I'm not 100% sure. It seems like all those crazy houses are out in like New England area. Yeah. Don't know why, but, but I believe the same team that I meet up with, I think they've been there as well. Like they hit all the big places.
Mm-hmm. And you were going to go to a sanatorium?
Yeah, it's called the Waverly Sanatorium in Kentucky, just a little outside of Louisville.
Are you out of your mind?
Why?
Dan, are you kidding me?
I don't know. I'm just
pushing it. Pushing it, dude. You're pushing it.
It's, you know what? I go by the old cliche or the old slogan, because it's there, I guess. Because it's there, so.
Yikes.
The Amityville Horror was filmed at a private residence in Toms River, New Jersey.
There you go.
Oh, New Jersey, okay.
Yeah.
Still back east.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else is out there? What other kind of, I know there's all kind, I know, here's a good story for you. My ex-wife and I, Sharon, and our 2 boys, Jeremy and Nick, they were little. And we were going down towards Colorado Springs, Manitou Springs, actually, in old Colorado City down there. And we were going to stay at this place called the Peacock Inn. It was a bed and breakfast, but it used to be a brothel. So it's got 4 stories to it with these long hallways, doors on each side. It's like so amazing to think about, what things are like back in the day. And from the 3rd floor, there's this long 3-story stairway that goes straight down at an angle. Like no landings, completely code non-compliant, but no landings, very narrow. And there's all these stories about being one of the most haunted places in Colorado, the Peacock Inn. And so, of course, my ex-wife and I know this going into it, but we don't tell the kids because they were young enough that they'd be scared witless, And so we thought we're going to spend the night here and we'll tell them in the morning right before we leave. And so we did. We went there. We were just like, we didn't really have many experiences. We definitely felt like it could be haunted for sure, and had dinner there, and it was real nice. And the next morning we get kids up, and we tell them, hey, this place is known to be extremely haunted. And they were just like, their eyes got real big, and we're like, oh man, we wanted, why didn't you tell us last night? Because you guys have been scared, and all stuff. So long story short, we get home and I go take all the pictures we took, all these digital pictures. Well, I'm really into audio-visual stuff, so of course I decided I'm going to go doctor a few of the pictures up. So I grab all these 1,800 images of these little babies, because they said on the back stairway you can hear a baby cry sometime in that stairway. And we told them that story the next day. Sometimes there's been floating apparitions there. So we told them that story right before we left. So it was daytime, they weren't going to get too scared, and we were leaving, So I did. I put all these ghostly images in these pictures, and not every one of them, just like every few, I'd put one in there. One outside the window at the dinner theater where we were eating, a little baby at the bottom of the stairway, like this one floating above my son's head and stuff, right in the flash reflection on this thing. So I did all this. Called the kids up, hey, you guys want to see the pictures of the trip? They're like, yeah. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if we caught a ghost, And I'm thumbing through these pictures, and oh my gosh. I look at my wife because I'm getting ready to go to the next one and see if they think it. And I hit the next one, and there it is. And I hit the next one, and my oldest son goes, Dad, go back. We got one. And I was like, what? I went back there. My little one's eyes are about this big. It was one of the best put-ons I've ever done on these kids their entire life. Oh my gosh, man. I had so much fun with that. But it sure was cool staying in a place like that, because haunted or not, I don't know, but talk about the coolness factor, thinking about what all the stuff could have gone on there. And, I guess people had died there, of course, and, who knows what, but it being a brothel and just seeing how it was constructed and everything, it just took you right back to the Wild West, I'll tell you what.
Dan, you're going to have to come out here to go over to Estes Park and visit the Stanley Hotel.
Yeah, the Stanley.
Oh, I know about the Stanley Hotel. I actually know about that,
Yeah.
I've heard of that place. You never know. Yeah. You never know. I might make that trip.
It's kind of the same things. You can take tours. I've been inside. I've never stayed there. I've never taken a tour, but I did go inside. It's an absolutely gorgeous hotel.
It is amazing.
But yeah, I mean they swear by the haunted things, and yeah. Not far from us.
So, Dan, are you the type of guy that when you see something that looks a little spooky, a dark basement or whatever, you're usually just going to trudge right in there?
Yeah, it's funny because I was the kind of kid, and maybe you guys understand what I'm saying here. When I was a small kid, I would watch TV downstairs, and I had to turn on every light to go up to bed, and then turn one off at a time on my way out, because I was scared of, every somebody sneezed, I would jump, So it's weird, yeah. But I am that kind of guy. If somebody says, there's things going on in my basement, I go, well, let's go down there and look. I don't know. It's weird. It's strange. Yeah. I've changed for some reason like that, but
You ever crawled underneath homes and stuff, like in small crawl spaces and stuff? 24-inch crawl spaces and stuff.
No, but one of my crazy buddy digging partners, Redbeard, Redbeard Relic Hunter. He, whenever we'd go out, he was that guy. He was the one. The second we would go, he would say to the landowner, "Can I go under the front porch?" And the landowner goes, "If you want." I think I saw a couple family raccoons go under there. He didn't care. He was right under there. I'm not really like that too much. I said, no. You know what? For the sake of one copper, I'll be all right. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I hear that. A buddy of mine used to have an alarm company where he installed home alarms. And he asked me to help him one weekend. He had like 3 homes to do and stuff. So I said, okay, I'll come help you, run wire or whatever, put magnets on windows and stuff. No, that's not what he needed help with. You need help with running the wires underneath the crawl spaces of the homes where all the spiders are and all the other stuff. And I was just like cobwebs in my face all day. I did like one home and I was like, yeah, I think I got to go. Yeah. Can we switch next time? Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Well, I got to go. But that kind of stuff creeps me out. I'm not a big risk taker. I'll go bungee jumping, you do all that stuff. But when it comes to creepy stuff, I tend to shy away. I guess it's because I'm leery of situations in like public parks. A lot what Denny was talking about. If I see there's a lot of gnarly looking characters hanging out, riffraff hanging out, I'm pretty conscientious of that and my surroundings at all times, and tend to stay away from that. Why invite trouble when you can avoid it? So
yeah, for sure, 100%. It's funny. My digging partner, Mike, we call him Iron Mike. He's the Bradford Beeper. The guy's hilarious, and he knows. I mean, Bradley Ford. Bradley Ford, no. The Bradford Beeper, they call him. So. He's read a bunch of books on the Conjuring House and everything. When I told him I was going, he's like, "That's the coolest thing ever." And I said to him, "Mike, do you want to go with me?" And he's like, "No." Like immediately he was, "No." There's no, why? He goes, "Why would I want to do that? There's absolutely no way I want to do that." But I thought he was the guy who would go, who definitely want to go. He was telling me he read all the books. Nope, no way. would have made for a great video though for going detecting with him down there and then going in the house. But no, he wouldn't do it.
He was actually the ghost that called in earlier that got us kicked off the air. So Mike, thanks for that. It was my fault, but yeah.
Too bad.
He said to call him Bradley Ford. What's the story behind that?
Bradley Ford, I have no idea. He said he was going to call you guys like a grade 6, like somebody in grade 6 back in the 80s, and then hang up and go.
Oh boy.
I invited him to call
back. Yeah, I invited him to call back.
Oh, okay.
He probably ran out of time. We're almost out of time here too. Oh my God. Any more stories? Last stories from you, Dan, before we end the show tonight?
No, as far as spooky stuff goes, I'm really only good for about one a year. But I did want to tell you something really cool though. My wife works at the senior center here for the city, and I'm actually starting in the spring. I'm going to be starting up a senior citizens metal detecting club.
Oh, cool.
To get senior citizens out and exercising and moving around, and I'm actually got quite a bit of interest. I did a little. It was called a men's night out, and it was probably about 17 to 20 men came out, and 4 of them had detectors, and they are gung ho to do this. Yeah, so it looks like I'm going to be heading up, or at least getting this metal detecting club off the ground for them. And I think I'm so excited about it. I love giving back, especially to the seniors, and there's a group that want to do this,
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to be pulling off in the spring.
I'll tell you what, if you need any help with equipping that effort with detectors or whatever, get a hold of me. I could probably help you out from a YouTube channel and see what we can send out and put you in touch with other people who might be able to help you out too. That's a great idea. I always like when I hear people doing that to help out the community, and also when they do that for kids. And sometimes there's been people that have done it with kids and but the seniors are a great idea, man, because they're always looking for something to do. You know what I mean? And great hobby. We all know what a great hobby it is. So, yeah, keep me in the loop on that, Dan, would you? Just keep me posted.
Yeah, we'll do for sure.
Great guest, Tony.
Amazing.
I guess, sorry, the last thing, Ken, my YouTube channel, Pop Can Dan, and my slogan is "Where history meets tomfoolery."
That's good. Hey, they're entertaining. I'll tell you what. If you guys are not familiar with Dan's YouTube channel, you go check it out, man. It's entertaining.
If you can't have fun metal detecting, man, it's not. You shouldn't even be doing it. You got to have fun. Life's too short.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any scary animal encounter experiences detecting?
Yes. This was quite a few years ago. I actually had a mad turkey was taking jumps at me with his talons. I turned and ran the other way. I don't need any of that hassle. And just quickly, I was detecting in a field, a really nice historic field, and I remember I was bent over and I was detecting there was a bunch of geese just over the slope. They all came flying over my head, and I'm like, what's going on? And I stood up, and there was a coyote standing there, and he was probably about 50 feet away from me. I'm like, who cares about a coyote, So I continued on detecting, and I got headphones on. I went and dug my next hole, and I stood up and looked back, and then there were 3 coyotes standing there, and I'm like, okay, now there's a problem. Now they're starting to size me up. So what I did was I had to back out of the field. I just walked out. They weren't aggressive, but they followed me 15 minutes out of the field.
Jeez.
And I was like,
they're trying to decide whether they were going to eat you or not.
Yeah, it was intimidating. Yeah, it was intimidating, but I figured, you know what, I should cut my losses there and just, time to go home for the day. So, yeah.
Man. Denny said a bull. For
I
him.
had a rattlesnake out at bottle digging.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had a little 6-year-old that just wouldn't leave me alone. I was like, get away from me, kid. You're bothering me. No. Other than that, I had a deer scare me pretty good one time, jumped up. And I had a moose. I thought it was a bear.
Oh,
we were looking for Forrest Fenn's treasure, me and my stepson, who actually is here right now. And we were out in the wilds of Wyoming, man, in grizzly country. I mean, place where no one would have ever missed us had we gone missing. We were in the middle of nowhere. And, we had sticks with us. That's about it. I had bear spray with me. And this bear jumped up out of the bush and charged near us. But it was a moose. Yeah. I thought it was a bear, but it was a moose. Big furry thing. Crazy. But Dan, you've been a great guest, man. Thank you so much for the stories. Great episode, Tony.
Yeah, good time.
Yeah, no problem, Ken. Just keep an eye out for it's going to come out 3 videos. It's probably going to come out within the course of a week, just before Halloween.
Perfect.
And it's like I said, it's the first video's got the detecting in it, and the other 2, it's more about the paranormal research. And it's not for everybody, but you know what, I love doing it, and I just throw it out there if anybody wants to watch it. So.
Yeah, perfect. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Definitely put that on our reminders to watch that channel and see when those come out. Keep us in a loop on that. And looking forward to it, man. You hear the stories here on Relics Radio, and then you can go watch the video and tie all this into it. Touch base with them. You got a haunted place you want to come check out? Get a hold of Dan. He's got contact information out there, and invite him out. I think it'd be cool. I think there's a group over in England that their whole thing was going to weird, strange places and spending the night and exploring. They used to do a lot of detecting, and then they just switched over to complete exploring. And they do a great job over there. I used to watch their stuff all the time. So, hey, Dan, thanks for coming on with us, man. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
Ken. Yeah, no problem, man. Ken, Tony, you guys are always a class act, man. I really appreciate the invite.
Yeah.
Anytime.
You're a great guest, bud. We appreciate it. Hold on the line. We'll say our goodbyes after the outro.
Yeah,
Tony,
sure.
what do you got going on?
Yep. Just
anything going
on? Beer Can Dan for coming on. Pop Can Dan.
There we go.
For coming on tonight. Great stories. Loved it. Learned a lot, which is awesome. And kind of had a good time. It was a really good time. But if you guys want to follow me, just look out there for 5280 Adventures, YouTube, Facebook, everything else. Just put in 5280 Adventures, and you'll find me.
Yep. You can find me anywhere on the internet at balletsarecool.com. You just go ahead and type that in. You'll find me. No, everyone, thanks for listening in. Catch us next week. Oh, boy, next week we got a great show coming up. we had a group, a lot of them are our listeners here. They're all going to come on at once and talk about this amazing trip they all just took to England. And some of the amazing things I saw pictures of that they found. Yeah, you're going to hear from them all next week. We're going to have a whole group of them on. Stay tuned for that right here on Relics Radio. I'm DK from Adventures in Dirt. Always great to talk to you. We'll see you next Thursday.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Relics Radio. We really do appreciate it. Be sure and join us live each Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern here on Spreaker, or you can catch the archive show at Relics Radio on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Apple Podcast, and many other podcast outlets. Please take a minute and hit the like button, and be sure that you follow us so that you'll get notifications of all of our upcoming broadcasts. Be sure and visit Digging with Seven and Adventures in Dirt on YouTube, and check out the Relics Radio Facebook group page. If you'd like to get in touch with us, then send an email to relicsradio@outlook.com. We'd love to hear from you. We hope that you will join us next Thursday night, and until then, get out there and dig some history.
Okay, we are clear.